Now, and I'm going to tell a little bit on my family, and well, they told the story to me many times, sitting at my grandpa's foot. You know, you'd hear these stories about your relatives, and one of them was my Uncle Bob Baugus. Now, Uncle Bob, they always used to say Uncle Bob was bad to drink. Now, his wife's name was Molly. Well, see, Bob run a little country store down there, close to Harrow, North Carolina. I know y'all know where that's at. It's one of those vacation destinations that you hear so much about on Travelocity and everything. But now Uncle Bob, he made liquor. And they would ask him, said, "Bob, is your liquor any good?" He said, "I don't know. I don't make it to drink. I make it to sell." So he didn't drink his own liquor. He'd buy somebody else's to drink. But he'd come home every once in a while and he'd be drunk. And he wasn't a nice feller sometimes when he'd get drunk. He'd come in, he'd be mean to Aunt Molly. And Molly would say, "Bob, you aim to quit that drinking." Said, "You coming in here drunk every night." Says, "There ain't nothing getting done." Said, "The animals ain't fed. You ain't taking care of the youngins nor the farm nor nothing." He'd say, "By God, Molly, I'm my own man and I'll quit drinking when I get ready." Well, she'd fuss at him a little bit more and go on about her business. Well, Uncle Bob, he had this big old handlebar mustache, and he'd put pomade in it, and he'd get it all twisted up, you know, and that was his pride and joy. He looked good in his handlebar mustache all twisted up. Now, he come in there drunk one night, and same old thing, you know, fussing at Molly, and then Aunt Molly started fussing at him. "Bob, you aim to quit that drinking. I'm having to do everything around here. You just a sorry old sock. You ain't a doing nothing." "By God, Molly, I've told you, I'm my own man and I'll quit drinking when I get ready." Well, being full of the local liquid folk art, as a friend of ours up in Kentucky likes to say, he went off to sleep. Some of us call it passed out, but he went off to sleep. And he woke up the next morning and he went in there to the wash basin and he took that pitcher and he poured it full of water, reached down with his hands and got his hands wet, fixing to wash his face. And he looked up in the mirror, and the right side of that handlebar mustache was gone. And Uncle Bob quit drinking shortly after that, because I reckon he was worried about what else Molly might cut off with that straight razor. But that's a true story. They don't get any better than the true ones.
Everybody, Appalachian Roots is just a bit of a survey, a traveling survey of some of the traditions around the Southern Appalachians. As I'm sure you all know, you can't just say the Southern Appalachians and consider it one type of music or one location. It itself is huge, bigger than, I'd say, most countries around the world. So you really got to break it up and know a little bit more. So hopefully you'll understand a little bit more about different regions and the different musical styles. All right, we'll do our version of a typical bad man song from the Southern Mountains. John Hardy. If you guys listen to the words and you tell us whether you think it's about a bad man or not. If not, you might want to register with your local sheriff department, but most folks would consider this a bad man song. A ballad, Southern Appalachian story song. Hope you like it.
No chance to let him down. His friends and relatives all standing around. Laid him in that cold damn ground. Laid him in that cold damn ground. I just play as fast as he tells me to. I tell you, I wish I could do that.
But we kind of start with, and in the end come back to old-time music. And the old-time music scene is really a community. It's based on the interest in old-time music, but it crosses geographical boundaries. You know, when I got to know Riley, he was local to North Carolina, now he's local to international. And I was living in New York. We both knew Dirk when he still lived in Cleveland. He was just really getting the travel bug. So we're going to invite our good friend, Mr. Dirk Powell, to come and join us on this last number. Please make Dirk welcome.